Hi, my name is Robert Deathrow, and this is my first attempt at doing something like this. So I don't know how it's going to turn out, and this is my first YouTube video. So, but this is about my buddy Chubby, and I call him Chubby. Most people know him as Anthony Joseph Toth, and some people know him as Home/Jackson because he did the Home/Jackson Chubby Deathrow or whatever we called it show back in the day. It was just a funny little series of one take wonders we did on Bookface. So it's kind of one of those things. Some people knew him for that, but some people also knew that he was incognito for many years as Home/Jackson. So it was just one of his things. So my friend's been missing since May 27th, 2021. And the house behind me is the one that he was going to the last time that I saw him. All right, so we're just gonna walk past it. So that's where he was going. He worked with a dude, and I'm not really sure on what his name is. Some people say his name is Pedro, and he went by a couple other names too. So, but he lived there, and he and Chubby started this car detailing service where they were doing mobile detailing. And anyway, so he worked with him for maybe about 5 months or something, maybe a little longer, maybe a little less. But I had encouraged Chubby to get a job, and he came across this fella, and he wanted to start a business, and Chubby was obviously not doing much, so he went around and helped him do mobile detailing, and then also he helped him pass out business cards all over town in Palm Coast, Florida. So if I didn't say Florida, that's where we're at. That's why if you hear like cicadas going in the background and you see I'm excessively sweating and wearing sunglasses, yeah, not trying to be deceptive here, fellas. It's hot. And I have an operation coming up. I'm not in the best of health, so I want to make sure that I get this out now because effective last month, Chubby's been missing 2 years. So his name is Anthony Joseph Toth. His date of birth is May 22nd, 1967. I may repeat that a few times because I only know how to do one take. But I wanted to walk you the distance because even in my condition, it's probably only going to take me a couple minutes to walk down there. So, and I'm not super sick or anything. I got some gut issues. They just got to go in and fix some stuff. But it's pinching some other stuff that's causing me a lot of pain. So anyways, Chubby would have made this walk, but the last interaction that I had with him happened at my driveway. And it wasn't the most positive interaction, but it wasn't the most negative either. Chubby was supposed to do 3 chores. It's not important what they were, clean the gutters, and it's just dumb stuff. Basically, he lived in my backyard, and he had a room, but he wouldn't come inside the house. But he basically lived with us for free, and I just asked him to do a few things that gave him a sense of responsibility. But I had to get on him, and he needed to clean the gutters because I don't like to do heights, and Chubby was okay with it. But he was hemming and hawing about doing it, which is what he usually did. So every year or so, I'd have to write him a stern letter. So this is my house behind me. I have to write him a stern letter that would say, "Hey, Chubby, if you don't get a job or you don't do this, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." Only every once in a while, and he would go, "Oh, you know, blah, blah, blah." So hold on, air conditioner here. Anyways, so he would get upset. Oh boy. Oh, I'm gonna do it, I did it, or I was supposed to do it, whatever. He's a good dude, but as a lot of you know, not very capable of sticking with a program or a pattern. Now, right behind me is where Chubby always sat when he was at my house. So behind me in the screened enclosure over there, that's where he used to sleep. He wouldn't go inside to sleep. But over behind me is basically where he would sit in that one chair right there. Sorry, I had to sit down. The chair behind me. Anyways, so that's where Chubby would be. And he'd sit here all day and basically didn't do much. But when he was working with that guy James, that's his name, so when he was working with that guy James, or he goes by Pedro too, he'd say, oh, I was busy doing all that, even if it was only a couple hours. So what eventually happened was Chubby was getting a little strange, and let's see, I wrote some stuff down so we made sure. He was getting a little weird. He was starting to repeat a lot of stuff, but he was also so much into politics that he was paranoid, and he believed a lot of stuff. Well, some of it's actually true, but he was like really big into politics. So he was getting into that, and he would like constantly tell me about the same incident or the same thing over and over. Maybe he was just frustrated that nobody was doing anything. I don't know, but he just kept going on and on about it all the time, and repeating himself, which was a little piece weird. He'd disappeared before, so he'd lived with this about 2-3 times off and on, and every once in a while, when told to get a job, he would leave. So this time wasn't exactly like that, because he had a job, he just didn't do his chores, which was another thing, you know. The chores were clean the gutter, clean the lint dryer, and it was something else, like gather firewood, because it was, I don't know. I gave him something to do. So, let's see. I had to talk to him about going to the VA, because he does have severe PTSD. Like I said, he couldn't sleep inside, and he was off his nut. So I was trying to get him to go to the VA. So I finally get him to go to the VA. And when he comes back, you know, I ask him, how'd everything go? He said, go great. So after a few visits to the VA, they're not doing anything about his mental health, and he's not going. And I said, did you refuse mental health treatment? He said, no, I went. I said, okay. Well, so I asked him how it went. What did you do, Chubby? He said, well, I went in there and they asked me how it was going. I said, great. And then she only asked me a few other questions. I mean, I just told her everything was great. I said, Chub, you wake up at night screaming. You can't sleep inside. You don't have any source of income, and you don't pay any rent. You basically live in my backyard. Things are not going great for you, buddy. I mean, he didn't really have a lot to say, except for he's like, oh. I said, well, if you think that's great, that's wonderful. I don't have a problem with you living here, but maybe you should tell the VA how and where you're living, and that would be a good thing. I mean, he of course was using my address, but he would not come inside. I didn't want to say anything, you know, it's not my place to say anything, but I let him live here, and he had a whole bunch of stuff. The other thing about this time being different is he left so much stuff here. He had his survival gear that he'd been practicing all this backwoods survival and making all these things. Maybe he left some of his survival kits as a present for me, and he's living in the hills of North Carolina and does not want to be found. I don't know. I honestly don't know where he is or what's happened, but his family, he does have a family, he has a daughter, and he has an ex-wife and some estranged other relatives. They're worried about him, and all his Marine friends are worried about him. So if he's living someplace, he just has to say, hey, I'm not missing. You know, I'm okay. I'm not missing. I'm going to tell you what he likes to talk about. He likes to tell people how many looms something has. So if you have a flashlight, or you're seen with a flashlight, or anything about a flashlight, he will tell you how many looms it has. And it's probably pronounced any other way. It doesn't matter. This is what he says. It has a lot of looms. And he'll tell you exactly what it is, what the strength and power, if it's got any other uses to it. And it could be just your flashlight you're standing there with, and he will tell you why your flashlight is either superior or inferior. But that's what he does. He loves to talk about flashlights and looms. The other thing that he likes to talk about, like I said, he was addicted to politics. If you ask him a question, he probably won't answer it directly. He's not trying to be evasive. He changes the subject quite often to what he's comfortable talking about. And a lot of the times you can tell he may be going through some kind of episode where he just kind of looks straight forward or doesn't, that kind of thing, you know, where he just zones out for a minute and then starts talking about a totally different subject. That happens to it sometimes. It happens to me. I mean, let's see, I wanted to be funny there, but I really want him to be found is what I want. I just want him to be found safe. And if he's not safe someplace, then somebody knows where he's at. If he's in a hospital someplace, if he's in a VA home. I mean, he's got Marine tattoos, so even if he was incapacitated, people could figure out he was a veteran. So wherever he may be, if a John Doe, if you have that. I will say this, that Detective Scalia with the Flagler County Sheriff's Department came by. She collected some information, some documents out of his stuff. She also got his beanie for DNA. So she said that they've sent that someplace for DNA testing, and it's been entered into a database. So if it has, I guess that will come to light if he's found anywhere. So that's why I got a lot of hope that he's not dead, because nobody's got a John Doe that matches his DNA. He loved PBR and Natty Light, so he could be, if he's out there sweeping up for beer, he could do that. He is fully capable and a fully responsible person when he wants to be, if he can push it. And what I mean is he can hold down a job, he can pick something. And if he can hold down a job, he has experience in electrical wiring and that kind of thing. He does have some experience in security and those kind of things, and he knows how to clean up. So he thinks he's a squared away guy. He does stay clean hygienically, so even if he's homeless, he will not look like he is homeless. He will find a place that he can take a bath or a shower, even if it's a creek or a river, but he will always have a clean and hopefully well-shaved appearance if he can manage it. Unless he's gone off the rails all the way, he always has he's clean shaven. If he grew a beard, then, you know, the tattoos, they're a dead giveaway for him. All right. He did love PBR and Natty Light. He wasn't drinking as much as he was before, but he kind of gets to the point to where he's Walter Brennan in To Have and Have Not. So if you haven't seen the movie, there's a little clip. Watch the clip where, have you ever been stung by a dead bee? He used to goof around and say that one, just like Walter Brennan did in the movie. He would remind me of it. You ever been stung by a dead bee? I can't do it, but anyways, but yes. You know, you got to bite them back. Anyways, he loved reading the Bible, so he was starting to read the Bible a lot. He loved reading that, and he respected and loved Jesus, and he was going to Salty Church with us. Identified, I guess, as a Christian. Was baptized in the ocean. I know that. He loved going to Salty Church, so he really enjoyed that. And we were still going to church together up until the day that he left. He left on a Friday. I fully expected to come home and see him sitting right there. There's a big oak tree right here, and he sat there. So I drive home. And that morning when I left, I said, I don't have time for this, Chubby. I'm gonna be late. I worked at land management for Flagler County at the time. And I was gonna be late if he kept talking to me about, he was being pouty and saying, oh, I'll leave if you don't want me here. And I said, it's not that I don't want you here, Chubby. I just want you to clean the gutters by the time I get home, please. Oh, well, if you want me to leave, you'll never see me again. I said, I don't want you to leave. So sometimes it got frustrating like that, talking to him, because he would stick onto a subject, even though you may not have said it. He would just continue like repeating the same phrase. And I said, no, I don't want you to leave. I'll be home. We can talk about it then. So I didn't even care if he got the gutters done. We could talk about it then when I got home. But I didn't have time for that nonsense. And he'd been upset with me since Wednesday. He was supposed to go help me paint somebody's bathroom. Lady at church had just gotten a new house, and he was supposed to go with me and Sandy to go paint, and he didn't want to. It was hot outside, and he'd been with James all day, and James owed him money, and he hadn't gotten the money yet, and he was going to get it Friday. And if I wanted him to leave, and I kept saying, nah, I don't want you to leave, buddy. I just want you to clean the damn gutters. So if you're out there, Chubby, I never wanted you to leave. If you're watching this, bud, he loved the Bible. He respected and loved Jesus. And he was doing his best to understand his own spirituality. The only problem he had was that he was really, that's what he looks like. He just started becoming a little bit self-deprecating. So I was worried about, you know, about him killing himself. So more after the fact, though, like I don't know, I'm looking for anything. I'm looking for anything. So it's been 2 years. He lived with us. He was one of the family. He wasn't just like some dude who lived in my backyard, okay? He was like my buddy. I'd known him since Desert Storm or before. The kids called him Uncle Chubby. I mean, you know, he was just always around for the last at least 8-9 years, whatever it was. So he was always around, and if he wasn't, you know, he got pouty and left and went to Arizona for about a year or something. And then the last time we picked him up, he was living down in Ocala by the railroad tracks. And when we went down there, and he had a little cache of clothes and different things and everything. So, I mean, it's not unlike him, and he's okay with being homeless, and he's okay with sleeping outside. So that ain't it. I'm just worried that, you know, if anything's bad happened to him, I mean, we want to know. We want some closure. The other thing is, if he's still out there, he's welcome to come back. So, I mean, I want to get him the help that he needs from the VA. That's like super important. He was real close. He finally went down there and told him, hey, yeah, this is what's going on. And he actually had gotten a hold of this VA help place called Veterans Guardian. So he had called them, and they were helping him along to get reviewed and to get a psych doc there to talk to him. He doesn't like the label of being crazy. So I guess nobody does. I just don't give a shit if you call me that or not. He didn't like that label, and it was probably because he was leaning more towards the crazy side. So, anyways, my friend, he's Anthony Joseph Toth. We call him Chubby. Kids call him Uncle Chubby. He's a white male adult, 57. His date of birth is May 22nd, 1966. He's approximately 6 foot, give or take, because, you know, we are getting older. As we get older, he was shrinking a little bit. He has bad bunions. Likes to go not barefooted, but wearing the sandals kind of like this, if he can find them. He is very comfortable with Florida and outside. He's comfortable with survival. He watched a lot of videos on colder climates in the recent past, so it gave me maybe some clues that he might have been heading towards the mountains of North Carolina or Alaska. He talked about those a lot. He also talked about going down to Mexico, so he's comfortable in hot climates. Outside does not faze him no matter what it is, and he's easily prepared to do just about anything. So he is not violent. He's never been violent, never seen it as far as in a civilian capacity. So as a civilian, I never saw him get violent. As a Marine, that was kind of his job, so he's capable of extreme violence. But, you know, his PTSD makes him hypervigilant, and a lot of the other things that pretty much make him harmless. And I think maybe his testosterone level, now it's just a guess, but I know mine dropped as I got older, and I think his was kind of getting a little light, and he was more emotional and concerned about his what he'd done in the past, you know, and that kind of thing. And I appreciate that. I am too. But we had other ways that we were going to deal with it. You know, Mighty Oaks is one of the retreats that I went to. he was close to getting the help he needed, but also he'd been there before. So I just want to make sure that if there's anything else I can think of. My wife may or may not have been the last one to see him in front of our house. I left the house. If I was supposed to be at work at 7:30, I probably left the house going over to Prince's place about 7 o'clock. Takes about 15 minutes to get there, but I always like to be there a little piece early so I can sit down, drink my coffee, and get my mind straight before I start loading stuff up. So I figured I was going to be late. If I said that, I had to leave between 6:55 and 7, because there's a dirt road at the end that's very unpredictable in my drive. So it'd be May 27th, around 7:30 is the last time I saw him. I think my wife saw him around 8:30 or 9. Could have been closer to 8, and then when she came back at 9, he was not there. So, but she said when she saw him, he was standing out on the corner where I said I got back, smoking a cigarette. So he did smoke too. Smoke cigarettes, yeah, it's kind of an important thing, isn't it? If there's anything else I can think of, I know his driver's license is expired. Oh, if you do happen to find him, and you don't leave a comment here and you say, oh, I saw this guy or whatever, contact Detective S. Scalia with the Flagler County Sheriff's Department. And Detective Scalia's number is 386-313-4911. Actually, it's actually their general number. But anyways, this is Chubby again. That's what Anthony TOTH looks like. Chubby. He is a missing Marine. So if you happen to see him, or you know anybody who might have seen him, or you saw him within the last couple years, that's the last. We haven't seen him since May of 2021. So if you've seen him in the last couple years, I know somebody said they thought they saw him in somewhere a little piece down south, which wouldn't be uncommon for him. So if you have seen him, let's try to get Chubby home, all right? Or at least let's try to get him to say he don't want to come home, but he's okay. So Chubby, if you're out there and you see this, we love you, buddy. I thought of one last thing, and I'm not really good and haven't done any editing. I just know how to press pause and then press record. But I thought of one more thing. He does speak Spanish, a little piece. And he's originally from New York. So he can thrive in the city. He's originally from Long Island. So he can thrive inside the city. We've been all over the world, so he's been in the Philippines and Japan and, you know, wherever Marines go. He was there. He also spent some time down by the border in, I guess, Texas, Arizona, those places, doing some kind of border engagement. So anyways, if like I said, if you see him, contact me on this thing, or Detective S. Scalia with the Flagler County Sheriff's Department.